Now, in this session under management of quality, I will be discussing two important topics. One is the benchmarking, and the second one is the quality system standards. Let me first discuss benchmarking. Benchmarking is an important activity for any organization these days. That means the context is that you are running an organization. This organization is a part of an industry, or your company is a part of it. It belongs to a particular industry, and in the same industry, there are many other companies, and they are your competitors. Now, among the competitors, there is a company, or there may be more than one company. They are considered to be the leaders, or they are referred to as the benchmark, say the companies. Now, what you need to do, that means in order to improve your performance, with respect to the quality, the dimensions or not, or quality dimensions, what you need to do, that means constantly you have to benchmark your system. And the system means two aspects. One is your product, and to what extent the kinds of products you produce or you design, to what extent they are the best in class. So these aspects you must look into. So you have to benchmark your product. And the second one is, in order to produce this product, you have a process. And what we say that product quality is very much dependent on the process quality. So obviously, on the process also you have to benchmark. That means, are you running a process? Are you using a process which is best in class? Is it okay? So this exercise, which is referred to as the process benchmarking, that also you have to do simultaneously. So what is benchmarking? Benchmarking is the process of comparing and measuring an organization's operations or its internal processes. That is very important. In fact, I have already mentioned process benchmarking against those of a best-in-class performer from inside or outside his industry. This point I have already mentioned. Now, while you go for benchmarking, now you must have a very clear-cut idea about the features of benchmarking. So what are those? So these are the key points you must remember. First one is, benchmarking is an increasingly popular improvement tool. Is it okay? Many organizations, they have adopted benchmarking, and they are getting positive results, very good results as far as improvement is concerned. Benchmarking concerns processes and practices. Benchmarking is a respected means of identifying processes that require major change. Is it okay? Obviously, you adopt new systems, and while you adopt new systems, you just check whether the new systems you are trying to adopt, you are trying to implement, whether this new system is a better one or the best one or not. It may so happen on certain aspects you have already become the leader. So your systems is the benchmark systems. The others will try to adopt or try to establish. Benchmarking is done between consenting companies that may or may not be competitors. So this is very important, in fact. Is it okay? Benchmarking compares your process or practice with the target company's best-in-class process or practice. This is the idea. The goal of benchmarking is to find secrets of success. Means, what are the causes of success, and then adopt and improve for your own application. So these are the vital points you must remember while you carry out a benchmarking exercise. Now, what is that process? So it is an elaborate process, and so let me first identify how do you carry out this benchmarking process? How do you establish the bench? What actually you are supposed to do? So the benchmarking process is relatively straightforward, but steps must flow in a sequence, one after another. That means you must not, it means that you follow a sequence, and certain things you must do, and you must not take a shortcut. So that's things we are saying, even if you may become slow, but let there be a definite process. A number of variations are possible, but the process should follow this general sequence. That means I have written this in a generic format. Obtain the management commitment. This is very, very important. Is it okay? That means sometimes what happens that any benchmarking exercise you opt for, the commitment in the form of the resource commitment, the time commitment is a must from the top management. So top management support is a must. Baseline your own processes, that is important. Identify your strong and weak processes and document them. So key issue is the document. Is it okay? Documentation. Select processes to be benchmarked. Is it okay? So out of many, you start with one. So what is the selection now? What is the selection now? What are the selection criteria? So that you have to develop. Form benchmarking teams, as I have been telling you, that you will be dealing with different kinds of data, and you will be dealing with a complex problem. Essentially, benchmarking is a complex problem. So that's why a group is to be formed. Research best in class. That means I must know that in the field, in your say the type of products you use or the types of processes you use, which are considered to be the best. Select candidate best in class benchmarking partners. Okay, which company you will be referring to as your benchmarked company. Form agreements with benchmarking partners. This is through the chambers of commerce or some other the employers' bodies. You can do that. You have to collect data. This is very, very important. In fact, collection of data is not that easy, particularly for the process benchmarking. Analyze data and establish the gap. Is it okay? Plan action to close the gap or surplus. Plan for resources. Implement change. This is a very tough job. When so implementation is a different approach. Then you have to constantly monitor the progress, and then update benchmarks. Continue the cycle. That means we believe in in the philosophy of continuous improvement. So these are the 14 steps you have to follow meticulously. So this this is just graphically I have illustrated. Like say this is the time of benchmark. Okay, there is a gap. Implemented new process here. There is a gap over here. So you have to reach over here. So here continuous improvement, your process, benchmark process. So that means now if you reach here, that means others will follow you now. Is it okay? So that's the goal, in fact. So this is like the gap eliminated, then benchmark surpassed. So this I try to highlight this one. I try to that means it's not that you will just hit the goal or hit the target. That means you have to cross the target. That means to what extent, at what point in time, your company becomes a benchmark company. Okay, so these are the steps I've mentioned. So please follow them. Like say the action, there are 14 steps, and these 14 steps, that means the 14 types of actions are divided into the responsibilities by management, process engineers and owners. That means these are the two activities. They will be they will be done by the process engineers or owners. Then this is the management responsibility 4 and 5. The team's responsibility are 6 and 7. Teams with partners, point number 8 and point number 9. That means step 9 and step 8. Teams augmented as required. If you consider step 10, step 11 and step 12. And obviously the steps 13 and 14 is the management responsibility. So this is the preparation phase up to say step 7. From 8 to 12, this is the execution phase, and step 13 and 14, they refer to as the post-execution phase. So what is the role of management in benchmarking? Commitment to change, this is a must. Funding is required, is it okay? Human resources, you have to form the team, okay? Then disclosure. So which information you will disclose, which information you will not be able to disclose, and involvement. So what is the prerequisites of benchmarking? Will and commitment, vision and strategic objective link, goal to become best, as well, not simply improved, openness to new ideas, understanding of existing processes, products and services. This knowledge is a must, this is the necessary condition. Processes are to be documented, and process analysis skills you must have. Now, what are the obstacles you should be aware of? One is the internal focus. Is it okay? This is an obstacle. Means you are just focusing on what actually you are doing. Is it okay? You don't bother about the others processes or other products. Benchmarking objective too broad. So you have to be very, very specific. Remember that all the 14 steps you have to carry out. Is it okay? So at certain point in time, what you try to do, just you start with one. That means that will be a starting point. Is it okay? As a pilot study, and through pilot study you gain experience, and when you take up these benchmarking projects next time, so that this entire process of benchmarking becomes more perfect. Unrealistic timetables means you must not be in a hurry. Poor team composition, setting for okay in class. So you should not be satisfied with okay type. Is it okay? You must search for the best. Improper emphasis and insensitivity to partners, right? And they might be, highlighting certain real problems, but you just ignore them. Limited top management support, that is not acceptable. Now, so that is my your initial understanding of the benchmarking. Later on, definitely on benchmarking, there could be different kinds of exercises. Okay, so we learn those exercises in the form of the case studies, in the form of in the problems and all. Okay, so please go into the details, and the other details will come up later on. Okay, regarding benchmarking. Now let us discuss the next important topic, that is the quality standards. Now, what you will find that in respect of quality standards, you refer to the several kinds of the standards, or the several kinds of the systems, or several kinds of the guidelines. Is it okay? So almost all companies and the organizations worldwide are trying to implement TQM norms, and all these standards are related to in one way or other related to establishing a TQM framework. Now everyone is trying to implement TQM. Many organizations throughout the world, they have understood that if you implement TQM, what are the benefits you may have. The first benefit that everyone agrees to, that is your production systems, your company, there is a high chance that it becomes sustainable. For implementing TQM in an organization, elements of TQM framework are to be established. That's always we are emphasizing on. And what actually require a total quality system is to be developed. Is it okay? That means you look at your organization, okay, from the quality perspectives, and whether the organization structure which you have can be looked at as total quality systems. Many organizations, while developing such a system, follow certain standards. They are referred to as quality standards. So I think it's very clear. So what do you mean by quality standards? Essentially, it helps you develop total quality system in your organization. In today's context, total quality systems is a necessity for any organization. So these are the comments, everyone understands this one. The company's operational and financial performance is not assured if such a system is not created. Two aspects we are always focusing on, like say, how do you perform at the shop floor? That is essentially the operational performance. And how do you perform as a company vis-a-vis other organizations? That means what is your, the financial performance in fact. Because as a business entity, what you need to do, you have to make money. That is most important in fact. And whether you are earning profit or not, and so what is your financial performance. Two important objectives of total quality systems that already we have emphasized. One is the customer satisfaction and continuous quality improvement. Okay, so we are aware of. Now, what you need to do, that means in order to fulfill these objectives, a system of standard and guidelines for establishing total quality systems in an organization would invariably support quality philosophies. You are already aware of quality philosophies, okay, as written or as propagated or as popularized by persons like the Deming or say Crosby or Juran, Feigenbaum, say Genichi Taguchi and others. Okay, and what you need to do, that means whatever the total quality system you develop, they must support these philosophies. So, in this case there are, as I have already mentioned, that there are many standards, quality related standards, the many organizations have developed, and many organizations and well-known organizations, they have adopted these standards. Out of these many standards, let me just discuss in some detail ISO 9001 standard and Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. Now this ISO 9001 standard, when we refer to, originally it was referred to as ISO 9000 standard. Is it okay? Now it has got 4 groups under the standards. First one is ISO 9001, next one is ISO 9002, third one is ISO 9003, and the fourth one ISO 9004. Now what is this ISO 9001? It refers to quality requirements for all the activities of an organization. That means it really refers to the total organization, total systems. Now when you talk about the total system, that means whether you have a system which can design your product, that means you have a design department, as well as you have a servicing department. So this is a complete organization. That means whatever product you produce, you have the design department, you have the manufacturing department, and you have all the the post the production say the departments or the functions, including servicing. So this is a total system. There are organizations where you start from the manufacturing. That means design department is not there. Even the servicing department may not be there. So there is another class of department. Now, if you refer to ISO 9001 standard, that means it refers to quality requirements for all the activities of an organization from design to servicing. You may refer to the functions as mentioned in quality loop. That means sometimes that is under Q, that is ISO 9000 standards in fact, that is the Q90 is an American standards, equivalent American standards, Q90, 94 standards. So it has coined a term called quality loop, and under quality loop you have 11 such elements. So while you refer to all the activities of an organization, so you can definitely refer to this quality loop. Next comes ISO 9002. It refers to the quality requirements for production and installation. Is it okay? Excluding design. Then we go to ISO 9003. That's the next one. It refers to the quality requirements for final inspection and test only. So this is just a one of the elements in the quality loop, if you recollect. And under ISO 9004, we have the quality requirements for guidelines of quality management. Is it okay? So this is a descriptive one. So you have, it discusses the guidelines for quality management. Okay. Now, there are altogether 20 quality system elements in the standards. If you refer to ISO 9001 refers to all these 20 elements. ISO 9002 refers to 16 elements, excluding design, development and servicing, as I have already mentioned, and ISO 9003 refers to 12 elements only. For getting yourself registered under a given standard, you means the company, your company, yourself registered under a given standard, you have to comply with the requirements of these elements. Is it okay? So these are the elements we have, specific 20 elements we have, like management responsibility, quality system principles, okay, auditing the quality systems, internal auditing, whether you are carrying it out or not, and if you carry it out, how do you carry it out? Economics, quality related cost consideration, quality in marketing, contract review, quality in specifications and design. This is very important. This is design control, quality in procurement, that is essentially you refer to purchasing, quality in production, process control. Now, under ISO 9001, all these elements excepting this one are relevant, and ISO 9002, this one and other are relevant, and ISO 9003, this is really relevant. These two are relevant. Okay, so this is the identification of which element actually is needed under a particular which element or which clause you have to abide by under a particular system of standard. So there are other elements like control of production, material control and traceability. This is very important. What sort of documentation you have? In many organizations, what I have found that this traceability you have to define very clearly. Is it okay? It's like product identification and traceability. Is it okay? Control of verification status, inspection and test status. What sort of documentation you have so that the status is known at any given point in time. Product verification, inspection and testing. Control of measuring and test equipment. Is it okay? Inspection, measuring and test equipment. Non-conformity, control of say non-conforming product and corrective action. Is it okay? So handling of post-production functions, right? Then storage, packaging, delivery, this is a part of the quality loop. After sale servicing, quality documentation and records, quality records, personnel means the training aspect, then product safety and liability, use of statistical methods, statistical techniques, right? And purchase supplied products. So what do you find that if you opt for ISO 9001, you have no other alternative but to go for complying with the requirements of all these 20 clauses. So these are referred to as the clauses, okay? Now, subsequently in today, it has got through several revisions. So International Organization for Standardizations, ISO, not iOS, it is ISO, International Standards Organization, composed of representatives from the national standard bodies of 91 nations, should be aware of. So our equivalent standards, Indian standards is that IS 14000, and similarly the equivalent British standards is BS 5750. Okay, so 91 nations adopted a series of written quality standards in 1987. So it is first proposed in 1987 and they were revised in 1994, year 2000 and again in 2008. So what are the objectives of these standards? To improve product or service quality continuously. This is the implied objectives, in fact, right? If you start using the standards, what you expect that in course of time you will be able to improve your product or service quality or both. To improve quality of operations, that means we are referring to the processes. To provide confidence for internal management regarding fulfillment of quality requirements, that means you have to create a system, and that means your internal management system is attuned to the philosophies of the quality management, perfectly tuned. To provide confidence to customers regarding fulfillment of their quality requirements, to provide confidence that quality system requirements are fulfilled. Often ISO certification is necessary to obtain product certification. Is it okay? And meeting these standards is becoming a requirement for international competitiveness. So, what are the benefits? Like, there are many benefits. I'll just mention some, like say customer satisfaction, customer retention. That means your, the market share or the market you can retain, higher quality products you are able to produce, improve productivity, increasing on-time delivery, decreasing defects, increased use of data as a business management tool, because you need to create a system, information system support plus the documentation. So increased management commitment, efficient management reviews, and improved customer communication. So these are the benefits. So thus using ISO 9001 as a basis for a quality system can improve productivity, decrease costs, and increase customer satisfaction, right? So these are the quality management principles we refer to, like customer focus, leadership, involvement of people, process approach, systems approach to management, continual improvement we must believe in, factual approach to decision making, mutually beneficial supplier relationship. Okay. And as far as implementation and registration under ISO 9001:2008 are concerned, what I have to do, that means you have to develop the quality systems manual and creating conditions. That means certain the training programs you have to initiate for all the employees or a groups of employees, an internal auditing team and all, and they have to be properly, you have to make a plan for appropriate documentation of your processes and activities. Adequacy audit you have to do. Then the final, the documentation you have to do. Then you go for compliance audit. When you talk about auditing, auditing is essentially a fact-finding process, fact-finding process, not fault-finding process. So first thing what you have to do, first you go for adequacy audit, and then you go for compliance audit, and then you go for the registration. The details are there, and you have to go for renewal. Is it okay? So you have to periodically renew. Say first time you will be registered for the 3 years, and again it has to be renewed after 3 years or after 1 year, whatever may be the norms. So implementing ISO 9001 is not an easy task. So you have to answer to these questions that why is it okay. So please note it down. I need to find out that why it is not an easy task. Now the next few minutes of time, I'll be referring to another important, say the quality award. Many companies, they try to compete for this award, and this is named as the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. He was a Secretary of Commerce in 1978. Unfortunately, he died in a car crash when the Jimmy Carter was the US President. So he was the Commerce Secretary. So this particular quality award is named after him, Malcolm Baldrige. The importance of quality control and improvement has always been emphasized by companies of repute. In this context, many American companies participate in the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. Okay, that when I refer to the data, we find many American companies, they compete for this award. And this particular award was created by public law 100, 107 and became effective in 1987, not on. By instituting this award, it is assumed that the companies will be motivated to improve quality and productivity. ASQC assists in administrating the award program under the contract to NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is primarily responsible for this award. So this is the brief history. So what do you do? There are certain requirements. Up to 3 companies can receive an award in each of the original categories. Manufacturing is one category. Okay. Second category is the small business, and the third one is the services. So the main objective is to enhance competitiveness of a company through an aligned approach to organizational performance. And competitiveness means essentially, your market share. If the market share improves, obviously the competitiveness of your company, goes higher. So this may result in delivery of ever improving value to customers, resulting in improved marketplace success, improvement of overall company performance and capabilities, organizational personal learning. This is also there. So what are these award criteria? Like the following, these are the core values in fact. So how many such values? So I find many in fact. So you may note it down, like customer driven quality, leadership, continuous improvement, fast response, design quality and problem prevention, partnership development, company responsibility and citizens, results focus, etc., etc. So these are the core values they have listed, and there are 7 categories for this award. Okay, so there are 7 criteria. So, and against each criterion, the individual point values are awarded, and the total value is 1000 considering all. Okay, so what are these criteria? There are 7 criteria. First one is the leadership, and corresponding point values is 80 and 30, 110. That means what is the leadership system? I have already mentioned, the certain aspects of leadership. So company responsibility and citizenship, that is your 30 points. Then the strategic planning. Under strategic planning, that is one of the criteria. You have 80 points, and these are the the other the sub categories or the sub elements. Customers and market focus, it is 80. So the maximum importance is given to the leadership. Okay, what kind of leadership? That means it is assumed that if the leadership is guaranteed, if the leadership is assured, there will be continuous quality improvement in production processes. That is the basic assumption. So beyond this, the third criterion, customer and market focus, we have information and analysis. It carries 80 points, and under this information analysis, we have 3 sub-factors: selection and use of information and data, to what extent you do, selection and use of comparative information and data, and like analysis and review of company performance. Similarly, under human resource development management, there are 3 individual factors. It carries a points of 100. Process management, 100 points. Business results, it gets 450 points. And under business results, you have 5 categories. So the total points is 1000. Is it okay? So this is the framework, and it's a very good framework. And many companies, they have they have become winners of this MBNQA, and this if you have this award granted to you, obviously awarded to you, if this one, obviously what is the basic assumption? That means your company has reached a certain level, is a high level as far as quality is concerned. So these are the companies like Motorola, Xerox, GM, IBM, AT&T, etc., etc. They're the winners. There are other international quality award programs you should be aware of, like the Deming Prize. It's a very good one. European Quality Award, Canadian Awards for Business Excellence, Australian Business Excellence Award. Okay. So for assessing a quality management systems for any organization, the first step is to identify the compliances. Okay. as well as non-compliances against the elements or against a particular clause for a particular standard or award, and make corrective and preventive measures for improvement. So this you have to do, but this is the basic assumptions, that whenever you refer to a particular clause or a criterion and you say that these are whether to what extent you are complying with the requirements under a particular clause, so that is to be properly assessed. Is it okay? So under how many criteria you are unable to comply with the requirements. So this is your assignment. Make a list of quality standards or awards as available for different types of organization, say manufacturing, service, and micro, small and medium enterprises. So this, if you can do this exercise, it will give a you will have more insights about the standards and the awards related to quality. So I conclude this one.